Okay, we're going to kick things off with a political puzzle that on the surface makes absolutely no sense. But trust me, by the time we're done here, you're going to see it's the key that unlocks a much bigger and frankly, much more frightening story about who really runs our digital world.
So get this. Here you have a United States senator publicly demanding that the president impose sanctions on the European Union, one of America's closest allies. And why? All because the EU fined a social media company. I mean, this isn't just a little unusual. It's practically a declaration of economic war over a corporate fine. The real question we have to ask is, why?
To really get to the bottom of this, we need to unpack the whole story, piece by piece. So, first up, what was this EU fine actually for? Was it really some big attack on free speech?
Well, it turns out the EU's action had nothing to do with censoring political views at all. The fines were for things like deceptive design, those buttons that trick you into sharing more data than you want to, which helps scammers. They were also fined for an ad library so broken that no one could tell who was paying for influence, and for actively blocking researchers. So this wasn't about speech, it was all about demanding transparency, which, you guessed it, brings us to our next clue.
Right, so if the big fight is over transparency, you have to wonder, what exactly are these platforms so desperate to hide? Well, to find the motive, you know what they say, just follow the money. The answer kicks off with a number so huge it honestly looks like a typo. And it's not a company's valuation or its total profit. No, it's something way more specific and a whole lot more disturbing.
$16 billion. Just let that number sink in for a second. What could a social media company possibly be earning $16 billion from that it would want to hide so badly?
And there's your answer. Leaked internal documents show that Meta's own analysts projected the company would make $16 billion in a single year from ads that actually violate its own policies. We're talking scams, illegal gambling, you name it. This isn't some accident. It's a line item on a spreadsheet. Now, what's really fascinating here is how this puts that fraud money into perspective. This isn't some small rounding error. It is a massive, significant chunk of their budget. It's in the same ballpark as their enormous spending on projects like the metaverse. The fraud, it seems, is a feature, not a bug. And look, this isn't just about fraudulent ads. It's about fraudulent users. A platform like X might officially claim that only about 5% of its accounts are bots, but independent analyses consistently find the number is far, far higher, somewhere between 20 and 64%. A huge portion of the digital world isn't even human. So if the motive is billions of dollars in cash from fraud and deception, then what's the method? I mean, how do you build and maintain a system that allows this to happen on such a massive scale?
It all comes down to a process that appears to be deliberately broken. See, in the real world, businesses have to know your customer to prevent illegal stuff from happening. But in the digital world, there's a huge financial incentive to, well, not know.
And here's that shell game in action. An adversary from a sanctioned country like Russia doesn't show up looking like they're from Russia. They use an intermediary, say a crypto service, to get a virtual US credit card. The tech company sees John Smith from New York and books it as clean North American revenue. The whole system is basically designed to launder identity.
And here's just one example of how ridiculously easy this is. A state-sponsored operative can dump some anonymous crypto into a service and, literally minutes later, have a valid US credit card. With that card, they can buy ads, run bot accounts, you name it. And to the US platform, they look like a totally legitimate domestic customer.
So we have the motive, money, and we have the method, a system designed for anonymity. But the source material for this explainer argues this isn't just a story about corporate greed. This is about a fundamental breakdown in how we're governed. And this is the core thesis, right here. The fundamental rules that we all live by online, the rules that dictate our speech, our privacy, our security, they are no longer grounded in the Constitution. They've been replaced by corporate documents, those terms of service agreements you click without reading. Think about it. Your Fourth Amendment right to privacy from government searches, that's sacred. But in the digital world, you waived it. The moment you clicked, I agree, you gave a private company the right to search and analyze every single aspect of your digital life, no warrant needed. Or check out this powerful analogy with the Third Amendment, the one that says the government can't force you to house soldiers. Right now, every time you pay for a cloud service or use a social platform, you are paying for the very infrastructure that foreign adversaries use to launch attacks against your country. You are, in effect, paying to quarter their digital soldiers in your digital home. And that brings us full circle, right back to that strange tweet. Because now, with all the pieces on the table, we can finally understand what is really going on.
You see, the political outrage isn't about protecting your free speech. It's about protecting a $16 billion revenue stream built on fraud. The EU's transparency rules threaten to expose this entire system, and so the system's defenders have to frame it as an attack on American values.
So when you see this tweet again, you understand it's not a defense of principle. It's a defense of a business model that profits from keeping things in the dark, that profits from scams, that profits from foreign influence operations, and that profits from turning our digital world into a playground for our worst enemies.
And this isn't just talk. The state is actively protecting these companies by targeting the very people trying to expose them. A disinformation researcher like Imran Ahmed, who you see quoted here, reportedly faced deportation from the United States simply for publishing research that embarrassed powerful tech companies.
So what this all means is that we've silently slipped into an age where the supreme law of our digital land is written in corporate boardrooms, not by our elected leaders. And our own officials are threatening our allies to protect that new order. And that forces us to ask a really fundamental question. In this new digital nation, who actually gets a say?